All right, you are looking live at Stephenville's own Spirit Notes, and we have episode number 6 with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jody Caudle.
What's happening?
Man, thanks for coming out, man.
Yes, sir.
James Brown was often referenced as the hardest working man in show business, but I think he gave him a run for his money.
I don't know about that.
This dude is working, I don't know, what are you doing, like 4 or 5 nights a week?
It's 7 nights a week, pretty much. Doing something 7 nights a week.
Damn.
Which I was going to have tonight off, and then you reminded me.
Sorry to bother your night off.
No, it's good.
So I've been knowing Jody for a while. I don't even know when we got together for the first time.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Probably 15 years or so.
At least, yeah.
And so Jody has been instrumental in shaping and molding the sound that you hear on the radio today with some of the things that he's done in this, broadcasting career, his music promotion, his music himself. He's a singer-songwriter, and we'll hear a couple of songs from Jody later. But anyway, we're going to dive into some history and some future events and see what we can come up with. But we're going to start off with our first segment, which is, what are you sipping on? All right, tonight we are sipping on some Evan Williams, Bottled and Bond. Bottled and Bond, of course, is an age statement of a minimum of 4 years. This particular batch is from the Heaven Hill Distributors Distillery up in beautiful Kentucky. It's 100 proof. Bottled and Bond has to be a minimum of 100 proof, so it's 50% alcohol by volume. It is 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% barley. It is charcoal filter. It's smooth.
It's smooth.
And for the price point of about $18 a bottle, you cannot go wrong. I think this is a good whiskey for you for the night because it's a hard worker, it's dependable, and it's priced right.
Yeah.
So anytime you find Evan Williams, which it's readily available, grab a bottle and check it out. You won't go wrong. It's pretty good stuff. Drinking it in the cocktail. Jody's drinking it straight up with some ice, so
yeah,
it's smooth.
It is smooth. And I'm a whiskey guy, so
I know you are.
For me to say it's good, it's good.
You introduced me to Screwball for the first time. And
the rumor is it was named after me, but I don't know where that got started.
And Screwball is a peanut butter whiskey that is pretty damn good if you've never tried it. And we had it one night at your place.
Yeah.
And, had the grape juice and
mix it with cran grape. It tastes like a PB&J.
Peanut butter and jelly sandwich in your mouth. It was pretty damn good, and I don't think that bottle lasted very long.
No,
yeah.
I didn't go very far. We had to take a break from it for a while.
Yeah, every time I buy a bottle, which is on occasion, it's always really good, and it goes really fast.
Mm-hmm. But this is something right here. This Evan Williams. I'd keep that in my cabinet. It's
a daily drinker.
Yeah.
For the price, for what you get,
I'm sold.
It's all day. Yeah. So, Jody, you've been in the music industry for a hell of a long time. How long have you been as a radio and host?
28 years.
28 years.
Yep.
Since you were 10.
Yeah. I know I shouldn't say that. It dates me. But no, I started right out of high school. Well, I knew when I was a kid that that's what I was going to do.
How'd you know?
Well, I used to take cassette tapes, and I'd put paper in the side of the cassettes that I didn't like, and I'd record the DJs on the radio.
Yeah.
And when they'd introduce songs, and then I'd cut them out, and then I would make up my own intros.
So you're doing mixtapes for
I was doing my audition tapes when I was a kid.
Did you give them out to friends, or did you just keep them for yourself?
It was just for practice.
Do you have any?
I was honing my skills. No, I wished I did.
That would be cool.
There probably is some that got sold in garage sales, though, because I never wrote what was on there. It looked like, so it may say Air Supply, but then you have me introducing, some old country song or something.
So were you always into that feel? Like, did you have that radio voice as a young kid?
Still don't. Like, I even had stations tell me that you don't have a radio voice.
Yeah.
I said, cool. That's good. Makes me different.
Well, neither did some of the greatest radio.
Kid Craddock didn't have a radio voice.
Yeah. Wolfman Jack.
That dude. He was one of my heroes.
Yeah. He was
I used to imitate him. But when I got out of high school, I walked into the radio station and I told the general manager that I wanted to work there.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "What job do you want?" And I said, "Yours."
Really?
And she laughed at me and then said, "How about we start you at the bottom?" And I said, "Well, that'll work too." But I said, "One day I'll have your job and I'll own the station."
How old were you when you got your first real radio job?
I was 18.
Really?
Yeah.
And you were doing just kind of working in,
I started out
getting
working,
your feet wet?
working on the board and doing remotes. And then the guy that did the request and dedication show, he was a jerk. I'll never forget him. And he told me if I would listen to him and did everything he said, I'd be famous just like him.
Right.
And I said, "You're not famous." He's like, "Yes, I am." And
Local radio?
yeah. Local station, college kid, you know.
Right.
And he was there about 2 weeks after I'd started. He got fired, and they offered me his job.
Wow. After 2 weeks.
And then I saw him at HEB, and I said, didn't take near as long as you said to be famous,
right,
and have my own request and dedication show.
What was your first show called? You remember?
It was all requests and dedications with Jody Lee. And I got a really good story. I don't know if you're doing segments, so you have to cut me off. But that was the first time that I got cheated on with me.
Okay.
So I was a freshman in college.
Mm-hmm.
I went into college. I always hated my name. The professor said, "If you want to be called something else, let me know."
Right.
And I said, "I would like to be called Cage."
Cage.
Because I thought it sounded tougher than Jody, so I went by Cage Caudle.
Yeah.
But on the radio, I was Jody Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one night, this girl in my class calls in to the request and dedication show and dedicates a song to Cage Caudle. And I was like, "I know that guy. He's a cool dude." And so, I built up Cage. Well, then in class, I'm like, "Hey, did you request a song to me?" She goes, "I did. You heard that?" I said, "Yeah, Jody's my buddy, man. He's a cool guy."
Oh, wow.
So I built me up both ways. Well, Cage and her go out a few times. I thought everything was great.
Mm-hmm.
She'd always call in request songs. Then she started flirting with Jody. And I'm like, "Well, what about Cage?" And she said, "I like you better."
Wow.
I'm like, "Wait a minute." So I said, "Why don't you come up to the station? I'll give you a tour."
Mm-hmm.
So she showed up, and then when she saw me, she was like all confused. And I said,
as
"Look,
she would be.
Me and Cage talked about it, and we're both going to have to let you go. We've known each other our whole lives, and we can't let a girl come in between our friendship."
Man. That's awesome. It's heartbreaking, but that's an awesome story. So you had a double life, and
Yeah.
she didn't even know it.
I ruined it for myself.
Wow. You're like Garth Brooks and Chris Gaines.
Yeah, that was my Chris Gaines.
Wow, that is awesome, man.
Worked out just about as well as Chris Gaines.
Well, that is that's kind of inspiring. So, all right, which brings us to our next segment, which is what are you listening to? All right, something new that I'm listening to is John Mayer came out with a new album on Friday called Sob Rock. It's kind of an ode to kind of an 80s, Clapton, Toto kind of feel to it. It's got a really cool sound that's got a lot of synth, got a lot of pads on the percussion. His guitar playing is very melodic. It all kind of sounds very out of the 80s. So if you're into some of that kind of rock, then Sob Rock is something you need to check it out. Some of the great songs off that one are Why You No Love Me, Long Train Home, stuff like that is just kind of puts you in this vibe that you just want to get in a Mustang GT and put the top down and cruise. Put the cassette in.
That's right. The mixtape.
People don't know what that is half the time anymore.
Or Cruising the Drag. That's
Cruising
what we
the
did.
Drag, yeah, man. With some with the members only jacket. So, what do you listen to, man? You got anything that's fresh or new to you?
There's so much good stuff out there right now. I get new stuff every day sent in, and like Jed Bridges is one. It's got a new album that's just now coming out. No one's heard it yet, really, but me.
Right.
Actually stole it from him and put it on the radio before I was supposed to.
Right.
But he's okay with it now.
I was gonna say, how do artists respond to that? Like if they give you something like, "Hey, man, here's this, but don't put it out yet."
Most of them beg me to do it beforehand, but
You're right.
sometimes I just do it anyway.
Sometimes release dates and release parties.
Yeah,
and all
but
that.
I'm always first.
Yeah.
I like to be first.
Well, that's cool.
You never forget your first.
So, I mean, just kind of piggybacking on that, like, you come across so many artists, and you have people in the studio, you have people on remotes, you have people call in. What's the most memorable artist or band that has come through that you thought, when they're starting out, they're like, man, they got something, and then they just took off?
Probably 6 Market Boulevard.
6 Market.
You know, they used to,
Which
when I was doing the picking parties, they would come out, and they would just be in the crowd.
Yeah.
And I would have like Corey Morrow and different people as the, you know, featured artists, but I'd always get, somehow Serato would end up there playing guitar for somebody, you know, but I remember it was like 6 Market Boulevard and Kylie Ray Harris and Mike Ryan, and those people were in the crowd.
Wow.
So it was cool to see them.
And that was before they even had an album, probably.
Yeah. No one really knew who they were. I mean,
Clayton, man, he had that vibe on the, you know.
Yeah, and his new
voice.
stuff's amazing. His new band he put together.
Really?
Clayton
I haven't
Landing
heard
Band.
it.
They're playing all over the place now. They've been playing in Hamilton at the Green a lot.
Yeah.
And just killing it. It's
That's
so good.
great. Of course, Serato's playing, you know, with William Clark Green and doing great. And
then him and Ben are recording folks.
Halsey is cool as can be, and just a great
they're all
sound
doing,
guy.
Doing great.
And bass player. I mean, he
But
got skins with American Aquarium and everything else,
Right.
you know.
But I figured out a long time ago that was my niche. That's what I wanted to be. Like I didn't want to hang out with who the big guy was. I wanted to be the guy that was finding somebody new and helping them get to the next spot. And you know, William Clark Green was one of those folks. I mean, he used to hang out at my house.
Yeah.
And now he wouldn't have time to come by, you know. But he'll yell at me every once in a while. But it's good to see those guys get to that level, you know. Coetzel, who would have thought he'd be selling out stadiums, you know. Geo, same thing, yeah. First time he came on my radio show, he didn't even have an original song. He did a cover, like a John Fulbright cover.
Right.
And that's all he had.
This is my one song. Rooster Tattoo is great, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole album is great.
It's cool to see those guys, you know, and girls. There's been some girls, too, that have just blown up.
And so, Stephenville and the Erath County, Central Texas area has come out with a lot of great artists, you know, in the years.
Look at John Young. I mean,
John is great, yeah. But
Immediate Blues Band. I mean, there's just so many that,
you know, it's all right. But I mean,
Union Hill. I mean, I could just go on and on.
So, what do you think about where music is at right now, locally?
I think it goes in circles, but I feel like there's a whole new group out there now. You know, with Code taking off, and then Geo, and you know, before that it was like once 6 Market hit, then there was Dolly Shine, and there was a bunch of local ones that follow, and then it kind of dies for a little bit, and then a new group of kids moving to Tarleton. There's always a new band around here, you know, and.
Do you think the sound has changed? I mean, do you think the formula's still there? Like what I think of, you know, what the sound was here for a long time was, you know, the predecessors were, you know, like Cross Canadian, you know, that sound.
It's still more of that Southern rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whiskey Myers, I mean, God, I love those guys, and you know, they used to play here all the time, and it's just
they're
like
opening up for the Stones.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, I've seen them multiple times at City Limits before, and it's just like you just have that feel like this band is gonna do something.
Yeah, that's what I love about Stephenville though, is because the crowds always support it here. You don't get that everywhere, you know. And I've talked to a lot of bands who are like, man, I want to come play Stephenville because the crowds love the music. They just do.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I think they teach it at Duck Camp whenever they come to Tarleton. That's one of the things that you have to love Texas music.
That, and you know, you got Larry Joe in our backyard.
That helps too.
That's 50,000 fans every year coming in just to listen to 3 days of Texas music.
And that's another one of my favorite things to find new artists is his singer-songwriter showcase.
Yeah, the Magnolia or the Mother Lunch.
You know, well, he does that showcase before the festival. Larry Joe does a showcase to let somebody get in, you know, have a spot. That's kind of the way you work your way into the festival. And man, I've met so many, and even back in the day, I mean, John Young was in it a couple times.
And Buck Buffalo.
And just the people that didn't win it were pretty amazing.
Yeah. I heard some guys out of Fort Worth that I can't remember who they are, but they were really talented, man. And it was just like, there's some musicians
Cleto
here.
from Flatland was in it, and Caitlin Butts, and Kinsey Coppin, and Copper Chief, that's a band to watch for.
Copper Chief is good. They got that southern rock sound down.
Rio.
Yeah.
Shred.
Well, that's, and that's what I always think of when I think of, Stephenville music and the music scene there was a heyday when everybody seemed like they were coming out of this area. And now it's kind of, there's a lull.
Yeah.
And
I think it's coming back. I think it's coming back.
To me, it seems like the venues have caused some of that. Because back in the day, Bostock's was big, City Limits was big. We really don't have anything huge except for, the Twist out there. But, there used to be so many places that you could hear music.
Well, COVID kind of hurt that a little bit, too.
A little bit.
There's a lot of them that used to do it that after that, they just...
But I was watching this documentary, it was on Amazon Prime, and they was talking about Texas dance halls and the decaying, Texas dance hall is, something that we as Texans, you go on Saturday night, you put your boots on and you look slick and you hear a great band and you dance. And that's kind of a thing in the past. That's not happening as much.
No, it's standing room only now.
Yeah, and there's places
Mosh
that
pits.
there's places that are, that are closing down, and London Hall out close to Mason was the one that just expired, and I hope that the Longhorn there in Austin can make it. I
understand why these kids can't understand. That's how you get a girl close to you, is if you're a good dancer.
Exactly.
Don't matter what you look like, because they want to dance.
And I was always the musician playing the music. I never was dancing, and I suck at dancing, but it's fun. And when I go play, or I'm not playing, and I go to a dance, I'm like, shit, I want to get out
I'll give
there.
it a shot.
Yeah. Bought myself a chance.
That's right.
But, and I hope things get back to where they were for Stephenville's sake.
It goes in cycles.
Yeah.
There's some other ones popping up around here. I was telling you, I'm doing some different shows at different places, but there's some places still to go dance and hear.
One of
good
our
country
favorite
music.
places to play is the Greenwood over in Bluffdale.
Man.
And man,
that's one of the
those
best.
are those just little relics of gold that you just want to be able to promote and support, because those are little places that are dying out.
I would do anything for those folks. In
Yeah.
fact,
I love
when
doing
COVID
those.
hit last 4th of July, not this one but the one before, COVID had hit them again.
Yeah.
And so I just built a stage. So I built a 10 by 16 stage out at my place,
which is called
the Rockstar Ranch. So we just brought everybody out there, and the whole Greenwood crew came and camped out in my front yard in RVs, and we had the same concert they would have had, and just kept the show going. And then all the money we raised, we gave to their bartenders and staff, and it was a pretty cool deal.
We did.
I'd do anything for those folks.
We played at a benefit down at the park for a local fella that was fighting some cancer. It was a motorcycle run, and Julie and Brian were there, and Shay Abshire, some other people that were there, and it was cool. And we did it, for free, and we were glad to help. And it was just one of those things during COVID that everybody was just itching to do something, and so we were able to do that. And then we had a band practice where we streamed it live and did like a tips donation deal that we linked up to their page to try to give them a few bucks, and that was a lot of fun. But those type of people, man, you just want to do all you can for them.
Yeah,
because they're keeping music alive.
Yeah, we need those people to keep the music alive.
Yeah. So the Rockstar Ranch is your little abode down Lingleville way, and it's super cool, and it's amazing what you've done with the place. I've been out there several times playing around the fire pit, and it's always a blast. But you were talking about doing a remote, like a live remote. Did you ever do that out there?
No, we haven't yet.
Yeah.
So far out in the middle of nowhere that we haven't been able to get the internet we need yet.
Yeah.
So that's all we're waiting on. But
Gotcha.
But yeah, we're gonna do some live streaming stuff, and we're gonna do some VIP shows for artists. I've got a couple that are wanting to do some VIP shows and make their music videos at the same time.
That would be sweet. It's very, eclectic with the furniture, the decor, the lights. I mean, it looks quintessential Texas when you look at something like that. And that's what's cool about what you did out there, man. It's like there's no mistaking where you're at. You're in a backyard in the pasture, and you're butted up against the cow pasture, and you're in freaking Texas, man. And you just happen to have a stage up there with some amazing musicians and good friends and cold beer.
They're wanting to shoot an episode of Cheaters out there.
Really?
They haven't done it yet. I said that would
probably work
fitting.
out. That would be fitting. Yeah, that's cool. And you had some friends that were in Europe, and they're friends of the radio, and they're actually doing some stuff.
Doing some stuff over in Poland.
Talk about that a little bit.
Raphael and his buddy Jaroslav Jindr. I had to practice a long time to say his name right.
Right.
Jaroslav Jindr. Man, they're big supporters, but Texas music is huge in Europe. I mean, same way as like Italy, but big in Poland and Germany. And I even had a friend that played in Russia. He played in an underground bar in Russia.
That would be scary.
And he said it was a Texas bar.
Wow.
And I said, do what? He said, I walked in, the first thing I saw was J.R. Ewing picture on the wall, with lights shining down. And he said, then you get down further, and the whole ceiling was a Texas flag. He said it was like being in a Texas bar, but you're underground.
In Russia.
In Russia.
Wow.
But everybody's wearing bolo ties, of course, and the pointy boots, the chrome tips on them. And he said it was kind of like being in Texas, but everybody was buying him vodka shots instead.
Wow, that's crazy, man.
But you never know.
There's a guy that I follow on Instagram. He's an amazing guy out of Houston named Johnny Falstaff. And he plays traditional country music his way. He's one of those guys that's, man, just 100 miles an hour all the time. But he lives in Denmark. And his shows are all over Europe. And he wears his hat, his boots. And it's not a gimmick. Because when he's in Texas, he wears the same thing. It's like that's what he grew up on. Yeah. But his shows are so popular up there because they're craving that sound. They want that country sound. Yeah. They want that old school sound, and they just eat it up, man. And there's so many artists that go over there, and some of them never come back because there's an audience for stuff like that. There's it's kind of more of a rock band, but Tito Tarantula is one of my favorite bands that plays kind of punkish rock, but with the blues feel. And Tito lives in Holland because he just loved it, and the vibe is, he stays busy.
David Hasselhoff.
Yeah.
The Hoff is big in Germany.
The Hoff is huge in Germany. But all those bands, that go over there, a lot of them never come back because they've got an audience, they're willing to pay, and they just, like the vibe. And they come back to the States, and they might have 50 people in the audience. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy, but they do crave all that stuff, man.
My buddy Jeb just wrote a song about that. It's called "But Here in the USA, I'm Still Just Some Dude." Mm-hmm. But it's talking about being famous everywhere else. Yeah. But then no one here cares yet.
Well, and that's what happened with the old blues guys like Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters. They were playing their Chitlin circuits, and they were playing these these little jukes joints, and they're making nothing financially, but. The Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and all these bands started, figuring out who these guys were, and all of a sudden they wanted to make them famous because they'd put their dues in for 30 years and didn't have anything to show for it except the free records, and their way of paying back with the music that they pretty much stole was to have them on their albums and to take them to Europe, and they were celebrities in Europe. Muddy Waters, when he got off the plane in Britain, he was just like Elvis, man. Yeah. Everybody that knew who he was, they were like, holy shit, here's Godfather of the blues. and it's sad that it takes that, like Europe has to tell us what's good sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it happened to the blues, and it's happening to country music and Texas music in particular. And I know Buck and those guys, they did a tour of Ireland and stuff, and they tore it up there.
It's big over there.
Yeah. Did you go on that? You didn't.
No, I didn't go on those. I thought about it a couple times, but
freaking nuts.
I was always here working.
All right, well, that brings us to our next segment, which is For the Record. All right, and tonight's record is an iconic Redheaded Stranger from Willie Nelson. Mm. So I thought it was fitting to bring this one out while you were here tonight because this is kind of the start of the whole outlaw movement. This was recorded in 1975. He had been with Atlantic for a long time. He went with Columbia. Columbia was going to give him free reign, and they said, you do things your way, how you want to hear it and see it, and we'll back you on it. When he was with Atlantic, it was Hello Walls and all that stuff, which was not Willie. He was in a suit and he was having to sing and looking.
He looked so bored when he was singing those
very
songs.
Bored. And so when Columbia picked him up after Atlantic dropped him, he pretty much became what we know as the Red-Handed Strangers now, because he was came back to Austin, came back to Texas, and he said, you know what, the hell with it, I'm going to play music the way I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole outlaw movement started, and I think it's still going strong with the sound that we hear now that's coming out with music. But Waylon Jennings got involved, and all these cats that were Chris Christopherson that were Texas guys, and then he had all the singer-songwriters like Van Zandt, and Towns was amazing, and all these guys. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, this was kind of the start of what he had in his mind of Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain. I mean, iconic song,
right?
Man. Damn near makes me cry when I hear it. Remember Me was another single off that album, but this was recorded in a small studio in Garland, Texas. And when the guys at Columbia heard it for the first time, they were like, sounds good, when are you doing the final production? He said, this is the final production. And they said, well, it sounds like a demo. And he says, that's how I want it to sound. I don't want it to sound pretty and polished. I want it to sound gritty. And it was, a lot of it was just him and the guitar, him and Trigger, And it's very stripped down, but it is word for word one of the best albums that he had ever written. And the sound of the guitar comes through. That classical sound through an amplifier is strange, but it works for him. And it's been working for damn near 50 years now.
Yep.
So, Red-Headed Stranger. If you don't know it, go check it out. Get it on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, whatever you can find it on iTunes. But classic album.
I quit my first radio job because of Willie.
Why is that?
So I got to interview Willie. It's my first year in radio. And I had this jacket. They just gave me this jacket. It's the ugliest jacket you ever seen. It's gray, like 80s, 90s looking jacket. Mm-hmm. But on the back it had this brown corduroy bear. And so Willie had signed my guitar. I'd done my little interview, and he started rubbing my back, feeling that bear, and it was corduroy, and he was like, I like this bear. And I was like, cool. He goes, can I sign your jacket? And I go, you can sign anything you want. You're Willie Nelson,
Right.
So he signs it to Jody Lee, Willie Nelson. It was 96.
Did you still have the jacket?
I still have it, yeah. I went back to the station. I was so happy,
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you realize that jacket says staff on it, right? And I was like, no. And they're like, that's so whenever you get fired, we can give it to the next guy. And I'm like, well, you know what? If you don't appreciate Willie Nelson, I'll just quit right now. And they were like, what? And I said, I'm not working somewhere that don't appreciate Willie Nelson. And I left.
Really?
So they called me for about a week and a half. They'd call me, please come back. Come do your show.
Yeah.
Not till you say Willie Nelson's cool. They wouldn't do it. And so they finally did. They finally did a week and a half. And they're like, all right, Willie Nelson's cool. And I was like, if you could say it with feeling, that would make me feel so much better. So
say it like you mean
I
it.
feel like they stole that whole show me the money thing.
Right.
On Jerry Maguire. It had to come from my story because it was kind of the same thing.
Kind of the same thing.
But they ended up taking me back and let me keep the jacket. And I
Okay.
still have it. It's in my closet. I need to get it framed.
That would be sweet.
But I got to tell Willie about it years later. And he goes, you quit your radio job for me? And I said, yep. And then they finally said, you're cool. He was like, that's the best story I ever heard.
So
I've seen him.
Willie is up there, like
he's the coolest.
Texas icons.
And one of the nicest people you ever meet.
Yeah, that's what
I'm
I've
always
heard.
scared to meet my legends because.
Right. That's what I was just going to ask you. Who
Heroes.
else have you met that was that cool? Like,
Man, I met some that weren't. But I don't like talking about it.
right.
I let everybody make their own decisions, but it's just scary when you do have access to meet your heroes.
Right.
You don't want them to be jerks, And I usually give them 3 shots because everybody has a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
But after 3 times, I'm like, yeah, they're just jerks.
Three's generous.
It's just.
You've had the opportunity to, meet so many people in your radio career. Is there anybody that you, just idolize and you met and you're just like, ugh?
that I didn't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a bunch of those.
Yeah.
I could make a big list on that.
Yeah, I imagine.
But
And
then,
artists are kind of like that, man. They're kind of fickle. You
yeah,
know?
and the bad part is like I don't want to tell people because I don't want them to not like their music.
Yeah.
Because if that happens to me, then I don't like their music as much.
Anybody that you were pleasantly surprised about?
Chris Christopherson was one of the coolest.
Wow.
Maybe even cooler than Willie. Just the most down to earth.
Where'd you meet him at?
At Outlaws and Legends in Abilene.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Super nice, and he was so cool. And Shooter Jennings was playing that day too.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris.
Did you meet Shooter?
And yeah, I've met Shooter a few times actually. He's played at Twisted J too.
Yeah.
He's
I
really
missed that
quiet.
show,
He's
but-
really quiet, like kind of just not like Waylon at all, you know,
No.
or Way. But Chris was like, he went and watched the whole show of Shooter like it was his kid, you know, just sitting there so proud of him and just took it all in. And
probably
I see
grinning ear to ear.
these smaller Texas artists, and they're too good to come out of their bus, you know, until it's their time, and then they run back to the bus and can't sign autographs for kids, and I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
You're telling me you're cooler than Chris Christopherson or Willie Nelson? I don't think so.
And you can't be pretentious and be taken seriously, I don't think. I mean, you have to have a certain amount of, you know, humbleness to yourself, because if you get too involved with what you think your persona is, people aren't gonna like. They're gonna pick up on it, and they're not gonna
Here's
like
the thing I decided a long time ago. If you gotta tell people you're cool, you're not cool.
Yeah,
It's like telling people you're rich. You're probably not rich.
exactly. And that's what's cool. Like, you know, where I'm at with the Media Blues Band is like, man, we're all weekend warriors. We play once every month or two. We don't do it for the money. We just do it because we have
you
fun,
love it, yeah.
and we love it, and we love music, and we play them together. And you know, I have people come up all the time. They're like, "Do I have any merch?" I'm like, "No." and in my mind, I'm like, "Why would you want a Media Blues T-shirt or you know?" And it's just like, to me, it's like, we're not about that, you know. And we just want to play.
I signed my first boob the other day. And she was an older woman, and all I could think of in my head was Adam Sandler on Happy Gilmore. Like, it's all that kept going through my mind. Like, so I didn't even really take it serious because
Right.
all I thought was Adam Sandler.
So expand on the story.
Well, she said I reminded her of Waylon, which I do cover a lot of Waylon stuff, and even the stuff I write's more like older outlaw kind of country kind of.
Right.
But I guess she had a thing for Waylon, and she kept calling me that, and I said, well, they called him way more, you can call me way less. And she said, well, you signed something for me? And I said, sure, and she just went.
So do you have to go like down
No, I didn't go all the way down.
like, man, put the towels back on
So
the
I
rack.
wrote Jody Lee and then put way less underneath it.
That is pretty damn cool. Fortunately, we haven't had that experience in one of our gigs. We had this one chick at Lovedale that she came up. She was like, "Man, y'all are badass." I'm like, "Well, thank you." Do y'all have any blow? And I'm like, "No."
And that's random.
Yeah, she was like, when y'all played that one song, I remember I was in a bathroom doing a line off the back of a toilet to that Gary Clark Jr. song, and we're like, well, good luck to you.
Yeah, we brought that back.
And I was just like, and she was like, just strange, man. And I was like, and I was waiting for something like that, you know,
Yeah.
like, will you sign my boot? And I'm just like, lady, you need to go home. It's closing time. But man, it's random as hell sometimes.
I love talking to the fans. It's
Me
fun.
too, man. I love interacting, and especially when you're playing and you can just, you know, I'm into the music of like 95% of the time. Like, this is where I'm at, but sometimes something will happen out here, and you're just like, you can't take your eye off. Like, man, they're fixing to go at it, or this chick's fixing to take her top off or something, and then you have to kind of like,
Like, oh yeah, what was that? I went and opened up for Bart Crow not too long ago, and so when I get done, Bart comes on and starts, you know, pretty much immediately.
yeah,
And I talked to a few people, and I was just trying to make it to the restroom, but these four like beautiful young women came up to me and I'm like, "Can we get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Sure,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I sure can.
Yep.
I can hold it. Come on." So they line up and get next to me, and right when their friend was taking the picture, this girl goes, "So who are you?" And so I know in the picture I was like this. I'm like, what? they didn't know who I was. They just knew I was on the same stage that Bart Crow is now on.
Right.
So I must be important.
It must be.
I was like, you had to ruin it.
You had to ruin it for me.
I feel good for that long. Who are you?
Sometimes we wear our IBB shirts that have our nickname and then IBB on the other side. And they, you know, we did it for a look that we were going to kind of have this, like, I don't know, like this uniform look. Because when we played at the Blues Festival in San Angelo, they were like, you know, we want people to look sharp and,
right.
you know, look, you know, the part. And I said, you know what, we ought to do like a black shirt with just a monogram name or something and just kind of, you know, everybody kind of look the same, but, you know, maybe
They have your own thing.
Yeah, have our thing, you know, this is us, you know, this is like, you know, this is our colors or whatever. And so we had played this gig at Revolver in Granbury, and it's a day gig. It's like from 12 to 3. And we stopped at Hofbrau on the way home, and it was 3 of us, me, Kyle, and Wade, and I think Stacy was with us. But anyway, we get out there, and we were eating, and we had our shirts on still. And the waitress is like, "Are y'all on a bowling team?" I'm like, "Fuck, yes, yeah, we just got done playing
Bowling for soup
tournament." But I was just like, get so defeated, man, because you're like, you just come off a gig, and it was great, and you're half lit, and you're just like, yeah, we're bowling team.
We're bowlers.
Yeah. So, way to deflate
They
the...
call me the kingpin.
Golly, that was fun. So, you and I have had a long history in music together. I think I met you one time for the first time at, I don't know whose place it was, but you were playing guitar and you were kind of just jamming out something, and I went up and started talking to you, and we started kind of formed a friendship then, and then later on we got in a band together.
Yeah.
And it was called Union Hill, and it was short-lived.
Short-lived, but it was awesome.
But it was a hell of a lot of fun.
We had fun.
We had some great practice sessions and about 2 gigs or 3.
Some great stories.
Some great stories. But I mean that was a lot of fun, and you know I'd kind of let go of guitar for a while, and I was kind of getting back into it, and I was just like wanting to jam so bad with whoever I could find, and Texas music wasn't my real thing, but I loved some of the aspects of it, you know, like the blues rock thing was there, and you know, so I thought, yeah, I can try this and I can do this. But we were playing in Brownwood one night, and we were playing Oklahoma Breakdown, and our drummer, Chris Baker, starts doing this.
It's the fastest version of the song.
It was like a thrash metal version of Oklahoma Breakdown, and I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
And I was trying to sing it.
And you were trying to sing it.
I remember looking at you, and you're just like...
I mean, we had to go with it, because we couldn't slow him down, because he was into it, you know.
And I'm over there going, let's fight it.
But that was a fun gig, and I think you got in the stage, because you had a wireless, right?
Mm-hmm. I went down to the floor and danced with that old lady.
Because that stage was at the top, kind of like the, you know, rattlesnake.
Yeah, it was on the second floor, so you could see the crowd.
And I had a Flying V Gibson guitar, kind of a rock heavy metal guitar, playing through a Marshall amplifier, and it was just like playing fucking Texas country right now, man.
Yeah. It was, and it turned out to be almost a sold out night or something. Like it was
and they loved it.
Yeah.
Because we played Paradise City, kind of a, I don't know if you'd say countrified, but it kind of, you know, a different version of Paradise City. I'm like, I don't know how this is gonna go. And then we started into it, and I was just like, man, they're digging it. They're all, you know, they're all drunk and doing the, you know, the whole thing. And I was just like, all right.
I know. I can't believe we broke up. When we're gonna do the reunion tour?
I don't know, man. That's gonna be something that we got to get together. We have to. We should do like a behind the scenes VH1 type thing.
Yeah. Well, there is another band that's using our name.
Really?
And I interviewed them on the radio.
I think you told me
like
about
years
that.
later.
Yeah.
And I still had some shirts from ours.
You can give them to them.
Yeah, well, they're all ex-military. Okay. And so they're telling the story, and you know how they all were in the military and all had gone to war and stuff. So I mean, I was feeling moved, but then I thought I'm also gonna mess with them, and I said, "Well, you know, you stole my band's name, right?" And they were like, "What?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we had Union Hill first, and then y'all come along and stole it, and they're here doing a radio interview for their new single."
Right.
And I said, "So I'm a little upset about it, and I got something I gotta show you." So I pull out one of the shirts. I'm like, "Here's proof." And they're like, "Oh man, that's a really cool shirt. That's cooler than our shirts." I go, "You like them?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, we got a whole box of them. You want them?" Because we're not going to use them. I said, "But See, they ended up breaking up and then getting back together, and I'm like, so we could just do a big reunion tour of all Union Hill members.
Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool.
So I'm hoping they'll make it bigger than we did, and then bring us along.
I'm down.
Yeah.
So former members, and then we never played with them, but we're getting up there on stage with
But
them.
we did give them shirts.
Yeah.
And they adopted our logo because ours was cooler. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he came up with.
Yeah.
And I think
that was the gate with the buzzard on top.
Who's the bass player?
Secretary gate. Cecil.
Cecil.
Yeah.
He came up with the website, and we had a website and the whole works. Have you ever looked that up to see if it's still there?
Nope.
That's probably best. I still, on occasion, will go to YouTube just to see if that. I think there was a few clips of our New Year's Eve gig.
Oh yeah,
City Limits. Yeah. And I was just like, holy shit, man, that's
craziness.
That's goodness. But I mean, that's half the fun, man. Is when you're playing music, is you don't know where you're gonna go musically. You don't know who you're gonna jam with.
I wasn't even good enough to be in a band back then at all.
Yeah, hell, I'm still not, but I'm playing.
But you know what? That got me hooked on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's what music does, man. It's like.
And I tell all the young guys, I said, you know what? The best way to learn is to just go play.
Yeah.
Go play with people, and always want to play with somebody better than you are.
Yeah.
You know, you're always going to learn more. If you just don't be scared and just go do it. You know.
The first time you get out there and it's just you and a guitar in front of an open mic, that's terrifying. I mean,
man!
But once you do it a time or two, then it gets addicting, and then it gets in your blood.
My first time was open mic at Bostock's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was scared to death.
How old were you then?
Oh man, that was before we even met.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was a long time ago. And my friend, it was before. I guess that was before John was doing it. It was a different guy that was doing the open mic, and but luckily there was a guy that was wearing a dress.
A guy that was wearing a dress?
That was bigger than me, and he went up and sang a cappella Patsy Cline right before I went up. So I went up, and, the whole crowd was just staring, like, because Stephenville, they weren't used to that. And
was he good?
And so I went up and I go, well, it's my first time in front of a crowd, and I was really nervous, but I'd like to thank that guy for taking the pressure off. And he thought I was complimenting him, so he bought me a drink while I was up there, you know. I'm like, I'll be fine.
That's awesome, man.
Once I got a laugh, I'm like, yeah, I'll be all right.
So you've told me some stories in the past about, I think it was called the Watering Hole over by Ted House, that you met and actually kind of jammed and were friends with Ryan Bingham back in the day, huh? Tell me a little bit about that.
There'd be like 5 people show up to watch Ryan. In fact, it was so bad. One night, I was trying to impress a girl.
You told me he was terrible at first, right?
Oh yeah, he wasn't good. No, everybody starts somewhere, you know.
Right.
And but that's before he learned to do the slide and all that stuff that T-Bone actually taught him. But yeah, he was trying really hard, and he was really depressed us one night because there just was like no one there but us.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I'm trying to impress this girl, and I made up a song. Can I sing it? And he goes, yeah, I guess. And he hands me his guitar. I go, no, I can't play guitar yet. Like, I'm working on it, but I'm just going to sing it. So he actually started playing with it, and it wasn't half bad.
Really?
But then I got to leave with the girl, and he was like... So then he got mad at me. But he lived in a little RV, like a little camper. And, man, he paid his dues, and then he hooked up with the Bad Company Rodeo and started traveling with them, and then Bread and Water hit, and... But he doesn't want to come back here. I've tried to get him for different venues, and
well, he's in
he feels like he didn't get
California.
Supported, you know. But he feels like he didn't get supported here. But
wow. So Bingham was somebody that you kind of knew and played with. Mm-hmm. I mean, anybody else that was kind of in that search for stardom that you come across?
No, I mean, like the ones we talked about earlier, a lot of those guys, but. You know, after that point, I was pretty much the radio guy that was giving them a spot to play. So I was around everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody that came through here. And I did get to pick on Leroy Parnell a lot, though.
Yeah.
Because he graduated with my mom. So he went to school. He used to ask my mom out. Mm-hmm. And she'd always tell him no.
Wow. What was his brother's name?
Rob Roy.
Rob Roy.
He is super talented.
Super great. And they had a blues band.
God, a great blues player. Man, he can play that harmonica like you.
Yep. So Rob Roy was playing at City, and I don't know how I got the gig, but I ran sound for him. And anyway, he comes in, and him and his band, they're Austin guys. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they come in, and I'm kind of nervous because I've got my faders going, and I'm like, marking everything, and I had his harmonica going through the wrong fader on my board, and I was just like, why can't I not hear this? Like it doesn't sound right. And so his vocal mic was going to, I had them mixed up, and so he was like, looking at me, and I'm over there in that little booth, at City, and I'm just like, and then I was like, oh shit, I figured it out, and then I got it right, and he was like, but it was like, these guys were really good musicians.
Yeah.
And they came in and they did their sound check, we got it done, and the show sounded great, and it was a lot of fun, but I was really impressed with his playing.
I own a record player that was their grandmother's.
Really?
Yeah, I still have it.
Wow.
Bought it at a garage sale.
That is super cool.
And she said, my grandson's Leroy Parnell. And I told him I had it. I told him for the right price one day.
That'd be cool. You had a board that was at your studio for a long time that came out of WFAA, right?
Yeah. Yep. I ended up selling it though.
Did you?
Yeah, I sold it. But it was the original, like back in the old days.
Yeah. And the JFK assassination was
that.
broadcast on that.
Yeah, I probably should have kept it. But
yeah, that's a piece of history.
Yep.
But it's antiquated.
Yeah, it was
now
old.
Everything's digital.
Yeah, I couldn't use it anymore. It caught on fire during the morning show.
Probably full of transistors and tubes.
As I was giving the weather report, the ceiling broke loose and rain fell through the ceiling onto the board, and I said, and I give 100% chance of rain inside today. And it caught on fire.
So you started, when I knew you were at KYBY.
Yeah, KWBY.
Yep.
Yep.
And then you went to the other location over at the Busky River.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you were over at the studios housed at the Twisted Jade facility.
Right, yep.
How long have you been there?
So we've been there for 4 years now.
4 years.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about what you're doing now. I mean, you're doing something that was on the kind of the breaking through on the whole internet radio.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of them doing it whenever we started it, and but it was weird because I really thought about getting a real job for a change because I'd done radio my whole life.
Right. Why do you want to do that?
That's kind of what I thought. But then musicians started calling me and saying, "Hey, we need you. We need somewhere to go. We need somebody that plays the new people and gets it out there." And so somehow, I don't know how, I became like the old school guy of internet. And so I started doing it, and now I've helped other stations start up. So some of those stations beat me in award shows now, and everybody's like, "Well, why would you create your own competition?" I said, I still win.
Yeah.
I taught them how to do it.
And you won last year, right?
Yeah, I did win last year.
Yeah. And so what did you win? What was the award that you win?
It was, I won Station of the Year and then also DJ of the Year several times. And my favorite one, though, was Extraordinary DJ of the Year.
Nice. And so that's with Texas Homegrown Radio.
Yeah, that was all Texas Homegrown.
And so Texas Homegrown, you can find them on Facebook. You can find them on, platforms all over.
Instagram, Twitter.
Yep.
Snappy Chatty.
Yep. I find you on Facebook.
Tinder.
When you go live, I try to
Tinder. Sorry, that one slipped out.
I'd love to see your profile. I'd swipe right.
It's just the Union logo.
And so Texas Homegrown, you do that thing in the morning. You do your morning ride show.
I do the morning ride, and then I've got other DJs that do stuff remotely from different places and different shows we put in over the weekends. And then we do live shows. Tuesday nights we're live from Walnut Springs. We do what we call Rattlesteak Night.
Rattlesteak.
From the Rattlesnake Ballroom.
Yeah.
But they cook steaks that night.
On Tuesdays.
And, on Tuesdays.
Okay.
And
give me a rundown of a week with Jody Lee. What do you got going on every week? Because you're doing something every night.
Yeah. Monday's really my only night off. Something usually comes up on Mondays, but I leave it open for that too.
Right.
But then Tuesdays, Rattlesnake Ballroom. We're there. We'll have a featured. We have open mic first, and then a featured artist, and then what has become the coolest thing is afterwards we unplug, and everybody goes and sits in the middle of the bar and gets seats, and everybody just drinks and huddles around us
Kind of jams.
and we all just jam together.
Yeah.
And most nights there's probably 20 artists sitting there.
Wow.
Just in the middle of nowhere.
And Walnut, man, it's kind of a paradox because it's like out in the middle of nowhere.
It's like a
but
old
you get
western
there,
town.
Yeah, you get there and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
The restaurant next door is great. We've gone there and eaten there before a show at the bar.
Well, and at Rattlesnake, Spotty's a 5-star chef. I mean, her steaks, oh my gosh.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah, we ate there several times. And, I mean, it's always great. And they have the big biker rally out there every year.
Yep.
The
Rattlesnake Roundup. I got to play that this year. That was crazy.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen
I can imagine. And then on Wednesdays, what you got going?
And then Wednesdays, well, I was doing Legends Country Club, but we just stopped that for the summer, which we may bring it back. But I've been gigging some on Wednesdays. And then Thursdays, we're at the Red Barrel Bar and Grill, and we do a pickin' party out there, which is live on the radio.
Yep.
And then
Red Barrel in itself has become a pretty cool spot.
They've had to expand it. So it's supposed to be expanded by this week, I think. They were raising the roof, literally.
Right.
But our guest this week, Holly Garrett's gonna be out there. So
I saw you at her. Y'all were doing the show last time I was there.
Yeah.
The time before I was there, the Calamity Janes are playing on a Friday night.
They're there once a month.
They're really good.
First Friday of every month.
That's good.
Yeah. But I'm excited to have Holly back. And now she lives there in Dublin. So.
Does she really?
Yep.
Okay.
So I talked her into moving down
here.
So she's
local.
Yep.
I saw her for the first time at Hearsay. I think you told me to check her out, and I was there, and it was like, damn. And then we went to the Rockstar Ranch afterwards and jammed a little bit. But I think her and Dustin were working on
Dustin
something.
Brown, yeah.
Yeah, and Dustin's a cool cat, man.
Mm-hmm. He's doing videos now.
I saw one. Yeah, I saw one. Follow him on Facebook. And
I was the star of Jason Custer's.
I saw it. And I was like, damn, Jody's just playing himself.
Well, they told me I had to play a drunk customer. I said, I've been preparing for this my whole life.
I saw that not a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and it was fun.
I was showing some friends at work, and I was just like, check this out. Because some coworkers are their brother's Kurt Lewis. And
yeah.
And he was, I think, at the Red Barrel not too long ago.
Yeah, he came out there and hung out.
And that's cool. So Thursdays, and what are you doing Fridays?
And then Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays I gig everywhere. So I do have this Friday off right now, I think.
Really?
And then I'm in Coleman on Saturday. So
cool. How far do you go? I mean, is there any place that you won't go?
No, I've been to New Mexico and out in West Texas, and we got some Oklahoma shows coming up.
So you got Jody Lee, you got your Facebook, and then you have Jody Lee Songs, which is another.
That's
Facebook.
just all my original stuff.
Yeah,
pretty much.
And you put out almost a song a week, pretty much.
I write 2 a week, but I don't post them all. You know, but I do at least 2 or 3 a week. I've been co-writing with a lot of guys too, with Jeb Bridges, and there's a new kid that I love him, man. He's so good, but his name's Carson Clay. Mm-hmm. He's really got a Cody Johnson vibe, but in his own way. You know, but a young kid, and we've been writing together. And another guy that's out of Kansas, from the Lazy Wayne Band, Dallas Pryor, doing some with him. And so I've been doing a lot of co-writing with different people.
That's awesome. I write songs, and I'm trying to get myself to that point where I'm comfortable with singing songs out in public. But my songs are, I don't know, kind of still in the infancy stage. I've got a lot of songs that I've started, and then I've got to go back to. I've got a journal full of lyrics. I just got to finish them out, because my problem is I don't know where I'm going with music. Is it going to be blues? Is it going to be country?
Right, yeah, because you can do it all. See, that's easy for me. I only got one thing.
Right, and that's, well, I mean, and you do it well, but my thing is I'm limited with my voice, and I'm limited with my, vision of what I want to do. It's just, what genre do I want to go with?
I had a girl come up to me the other night, and she says, I bet you could write a song about me. I said, you think so? She goes, oh, I give you lots to write about. I go, the problem is I got lots of song material already that I just can't get to. Mm-hmm. So about 4 or 5 years, let me know. I might run out eventually, but for now I'm good on song material.
Yeah, I've got a lot of material that I carry those little field notes books with me, and if something comes across where I'm like blah blah blah, and I'll be like, I'm writing that down, because later I'll be able to use.
I did that to Ray Wiley Hubbard. I wrote a song off of something he said, and he knew As soon as he said it, and I was like, hang on a second.
Yep.
I put it in my phone. He goes, "You're writing a song on it, aren't you?"
Yep.
But I said, "What have you been up to, Ray?" He goes, "Oh, just selling my memories." And I'm like,
oh man.
and I put it in my phone.
Yeah,
He goes,
that's something I would write down in a heartbeat. And
So
I
I
do
wrote
that
one,
at work.
yeah.
You know, a lot of times when somebody says something, I'm like, and I'll write it down, and then I come up with something, and half the time it's ridiculous, but it's
I like
fun.
to do it to mess with other songwriters, though.
Exactly.
I always just have like a Sharpie and a napkin. And every
Yeah.
time they say something, just write something down. Don't matter what it is. And they're
Yeah.
like, "What'd you write down? It don't matter. Keep going. What was you?"
And that's how my mind works, you know. I'm like, I've always got music going on, like even if the music's not playing, I've got a beat and I've got a melody going on all the time.
Yeah.
And so when somebody says something, I'm like, huh, and I'll start writing.
I do that.
And
I get them from the weirdest places.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite songs I wrote, it's called the Cost of Lovin'. But one of my friends, he's very, very hick, and he was trying to tell me the cost of living is high. He goes, "Hey man, cost of living's too high."
But you took away love.
And I said, "Did you say lovin's too the cost? That's great."
Yeah.
And he goes, "What?" I said, "The cost of loving. I'm gonna write that down." He goes, "I said living," but he'd been drinking a little bit,
Yeah.
and his country slang
Oh,
made it
yeah.
sound like loving.
Yeah.
But it came to me just like that. And he still tells people every time I sing, "I didn't say that though. I said living."
One of the nurses at work said something about we had a new patient coming in. She said she's a good sized gal, and I'm like, hold that thought. Good sized gal, and I'm starting to write before I know it, man. And my mind is running faster than I can write, and so it's looking like chicken scratch when I'm writing because I'm just like trying to get this out faster than my hand can go. And I was just like, all right, I got a whole song right here. But I've seen you do that. We were jamming at your place one time, and we came up with this little riff, and I'm doing this little.
Oh, yeah, we wrote a whole song.
We wrote, and Jody's an amazing songwriter in the fact that he can sit down and just in 5 seconds write down. Or actually, it took about 10 minutes. He jumps up on the dryer and he's sitting there. He's like, hold on. All right. And then we play this melody and this riff, and he's just like, fuck, that's a song.
That's what broke up the band.
One of my favorite songs was, obviously,
Oh yeah, it's still my most popular, Bipolar Girl.
Bipolar Girl,
Yeah.
man.
And it's weird to me that it doesn't offend people. Like I figured it would. Now,
Right.
I mean, because when I wrote it, it wouldn't have. But
Yeah.
now people get offended so easily, and girls ask for it at shows all the time.
Yeah.
Like I was at a country club, the one in Brownwood, and they were telling me to play it because
Yeah.
they had heard about it. I'm like, what?
And if you don't know the song, it basically in a nutshell says he meets this girl and she's got a little cray in her, and she's kind of comes up to that point, and it's like, bye bye, bipolar girl. And it was just like, when I first heard it, I was like, man, that's freaking brilliant. And we
It's my
used to play
sing-along.
it.
It's my sing-along.
It's a sing along, and it's a standard. And
Larry
I
Joe
always,
says you gotta have a sing-along, you gotta have a pain song, you gotta have a train song.
Mhm.
Those three things you gotta have. Everything
that's-
else is bonus. I was like, what about love songs? He's like, eh. But you gotta have a train song, a pain song, and a sing-along song.
Hey, that's a formula for success.
And I wrote a train song in my coma. So
How did you do that?
I had this like reoccurring dream in my coma. So I actually wrote the song in my coma called Death Train.
Death Train.
It's called Death Train.
Hey, you put that out?
No. Well, I have recorded it, but I haven't done anything with it.
No.
Recorded it in San Antonio with Bill Green, but I play it at shows and stuff. But yeah, so that's my train song, and then Bipolar Girl's my sing along, and then The Cost of Loving is my pain, one of my many pain songs.
Wow. Cost of Loving. That's a great line. That's a great title.
It's
So,
my favorite one to play.
You've written a ton of songs. I mean, I know you do all that with Jody Lee songs. You want to play one for us?
Sure, I'm down.
Let's do it, man. All right. Jody Lee's got his baby here, and she's got a lot of signatures on it. Man, I don't know.
That
To me, a
happened by
guitar
accident.
is like a woman, and to be able to have a bunch of people handle her like that and put their stamp on it, that's tough.
Well,
man.
this is Miss
And-
Audrey.
And it's a pretty Martin guitar,
Yeah, I named her Miss Audrey.
Miss Audrey.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna play for us, man?
I think I have to do the cost of living now that I built it up so high, don't I?
All right, this is Jody Lee, Caudle, and the cost of loving.
I'm gonna have to
Hey,
resatiate.
Get comfortable.
I can scoot out a little bit. Yeah, the first person to sign it was actually Trent Willman, and he wrote most of Cody Johnson's songs, and he had his own hits back in the '90s. He's a pretty cool dude. Where the good ones are taken, rest are broken like me. And it's hard to find a lover, ain't been lied to by the dream. But I keep on searching, keep on hurting, reasons I can't even see. And what keeps me hanging on still believe. The cost of loving is high, but the pain is free. I knew heaven, but hell's all I've ever seen. This loving ain't easy, say it's supposed to be. Guess the cost of loving's too high for a cowboy like me. It's been good times and bad times, folklore and lost rhymes, make up my field. There's another one waiting, I'm hesitating, cause my past regrets. Said someone for everyone, well I guess I ain't found her yet. I keep on running and shunning for someone I never met. The cost of loving is high, but the pain is free. I knew heaven, but hell's all I've ever seen. This loving ain't easy, see it's supposed to be. Cause the cost of loving's too high for a cowboy like me. Cause the cost of loving's too high for a cowboy like me.
Very cool, man. That's great.
My voice was a little rough on that one.
I like
I didn't stretch first.
Well, you didn't do your vocal exercise. The cost of loving is high, but the pain is free. Oh, man. That's deep, brother.
And it all came from a drunk cowboy friend that was trying to say the cost of living's too high.
So, can I have this for a second? I just want to give a close look at some of the pain and some of the joy and some of the late nights and
Oh yeah, she's been
campfires, and that's got a Triggers type of feel to it, man. You're wearing that out right there. I love that. And that's the cool thing about Warren guitars, man. It's got a character to it, and it's got a personality.
Yep.
And her name's Audrey.
Yep, Miss Audrey.
I have a name for every one of my guitars, and that's kind of you put a persona to it each
Well, I
one.
figured Miss Audrey was good because, you know, Miss Audrey loved that man no matter what he did. So I was like, I'm gonna name her Miss Audrey. That way she'll love me no matter
Nice.
what I do to her.
Yeah. And a woman that'll put up with what you give to her.
Yep.
Is a good one.
It's been my therapy for years.
Right. And the sound is great, man. I mean, that's a nice sounding
Yeah, you
guitar.
wanna play one?
No, I'm good. But
You don't play on your own show?
I don't play on my
People
own.
do that to me all the time. Play one. I'm like, I don't play on my own show.
when Stacy was here, we did a few songs, but
I apologize that my voice was all raspy.
that's cool. And I was going to ask you about that. So, how did you pick up your sound? Like, how did you hear yourself singing? Because that's one thing that I struggle with still, man. Is like, I've got a raspy sound. It's not Binghamish, but it's something that I can't really.
Mine's really changed over the years. I mean, when I first started, I tried to sing raspy.
You tried to sing raspy.
Yeah, but now I try not to, and I can't.
Yeah.
That's from all the whiskey and cigarettes over
Yeah.
the years. But of course, after the coma stuff, I ripped my throat tube out whenever I came out of the coma, and it damaged some of my vocal stuff too. So that made it a little more raspy than normal.
But that hadn't stopped anything.
Yeah.
So,
Which, like I say, it was pretty rough, that song. I apologize, but
no, it sounded good. So Jody has had some health issues in the past. How long were you in the coma?
2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I redlined twice, but they brought me back. So
I know when all that happened, I mean, me, like everybody else, was checking social media. I mean, everything we could, and there was no word, and for the longest, and it was just like, how's Jody? I mean, I was asking people, and everybody's like, I don't know, I haven't heard anything.
yeah, it was pretty rough.
Yeah. And so, what are you? How are you now? I mean, where are you at?
Now I got a pacemaker and a defibrillator,
Mm-hmm.
so that helps a little bit. And but I went from, it was 20% before I went into the coma. It was 10 when I actually went into the coma.
Heart
Now-
capacity or
but now
heart-
it's 40%. So
40.
The last I got checked, and they think it may be a little better by now, but
Really?
yeah. So they've got me on some good medicine, but they've upped it, and then sometimes it causes other problems, so I have to go back down a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. But
Wow.
I'm probably doing more than I'm supposed to do.
I was gonna say, in the
They
lifestyle you
basically-
live,
They basically
it's-
wanted me to sit and do nothing all the
Yeah,
time.
you can't
and
do that.
I can't. That would kill me.
Yeah. So you're gonna just keep playing and keep doing your
Yeah,
thing.
keep writing songs. I'm gonna find some like young, handsome people that want to go out and travel to take my songs. And
Have you written songs for other people?
oh yeah, I've got several.
What's the
that are
most
big.
popular song or biggest song that you've got out there?
Jeb Bridges got several that's coming out that are gonna be good. Jumped In's one of them. That was one I wrote, and he just took it, and I was glad he did. He said, "Don't say it 3 times, or I'll take it." And so I said 3 times, take that song.
Wow.
So he's doing that one, and then we did some co-writes together. I'm hoping, I've been trying for years for Immediate Blues Band to do Bipolar Girl, but
Give me the lyrics and we'll freaking do it, man. I'll
we've been
sing
talking
it.
about that for how long?
I don't know.
Jeb does it full band with his band, and like people eat it up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can't have it though. You can play it, but you can't have it because I'm gonna get Santana to do it one day. Because I
Well,
promised you years ago.
You played it a certain way, and then I kind of funked it up like I usually
Yeah.
do.
Well, they country it up, so it's like 3 different versions.
That's awesome.
It's all right.
Well, Metallica just came out with an album called Blackened. It's a homage to their, huge tier song that,
Yeah.
or huge album that was, had 12 songs on it. Well, 53 artists have done covers of their versions of those songs. Like Nothing Else Matters is a Chris Stapleton version.
Right.
Jason Isbell does a version.
I heard Miley Cyrus did one.
Miley Cyrus did one. I mean, there's all these artists.
What?
KG Elephant has done
I love that.
one, or not one, but
Cage the Elephant's awesome.
yeah, they're freaking awesome. And so, yeah, I think we could do something with just that one song. It's like have somebody have a blues, have a rock, have a country.
I like it.
I
All
think that would be
genres.
cool. Hit all the bases. But that's what's fun about music, man, and that's why I love it as much as, and that's what we do, like Immediate Blues or just an acoustic, is we put our own spin on things, and
I think you should. And I feel like I'd rather watch somebody, if you're doing a cover, make it your own.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Nobody wants to just hear the
I don't want to hear
recording.
you sound just like the person,
Yeah.
because that's never going to go well anyway.
No. It's karaoke at that point.
Yeah, and you're going to offend somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I told a lady the other night she wanted me to do some Keith Whitley,
Mm-hmm.
and I said I can't. She goes, "What do you mean you can't?" And I said, "I mean I won't, because I love Keith Whitley."
Yeah.
And I said, "And evidently you love Keith Whitley,
Right.
and to me that wouldn't honor him very well if I was to mess up one of his songs by trying." just because you want it. And I said, and his songs are tough.
Yeah.
They don't sound like they are, but a lot of his songs are really, especially on guitar.
He was in that 80s, 90s, well, really 80s country sound where things were like here, you know, like
Right.
they flip-flopped and they moved a lot.
Yeah,
And,
a lot of changes.
it wasn't a 3-chord song.
No.
It was very complex.
But she came up to me afterwards. She goes, "I like how you put that."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, I really meant it. Like, I didn't want to offend you by messing it up and trying, and I also didn't want to disrespect him.
Yeah.
So if I can't, I just don't."
Yeah. So in a Jody Lee show, what is your percentage?
So what I
of,
did was during the break, I played her some Keith Whitley on my phone. When
And
I took
kind
a
of
break.
breezed them.
Yeah, and she was like, "Oh, okay."
There you go. So in a Jody Lee show, I mean, what do you play? Like mainly covers,
I do
mix?
I do mostly originals.
Originals?
I mix in some covers. I do some Merle Haggard and some Waylon and throw in some fun stuff. But it's mostly originals. And I've really been lucky. Like, people told me, "No, you can't do that." But I've really been lucky because a lot of these places like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I tell the stories behind them,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and because I grew up on Robert O'Keefe and people that told you the
Storytellers.
story. Yeah, you know, and I love that, you know.
Yeah.
Even Pat Green in his early days did that, you know. But especially like Robert Earl and Jerry Jeff and Gary P. Nunn, like if you went and watched them live, they would tell the stories, and that was sometimes better than the song, you know. But they had a way of doing it.
Right.
So I like to do that. So I've been lucky. I had one guy, actually, he kept going, "Play something I know." I said, "Like what?" And he goes, "Merle Haggard." And I said, "I just played 2 Merle Haggard songs, like, within the last 10 minutes. And I said, "I got one." So I played one I wrote that kind of sounded like Merle Haggard a little bit, but of course, Haggarded it up.
You're right.
Is that a word, Haggarded it?
I think it is.
Okay. It is now. Look it up on Wikipedia. And so, but once I sang it, I said, "You know that one from Merle?" He's like, "I knew every word. It's one of my favorite Merle Haggard songs." I said, "I wrote it yesterday."
There you go. And that's when you know you hit something, is when it sounds like it could have been.
But after that, I would go, "Hey, you want me to do a cover song?" Or he'd go, No, do one of yours."
Yeah.
Because the crowd kind of turned on him.
Yeah.
But people don't always know what they want to hear.
And that's the beauty and the mystique of Texas artists, singer-songwriters. I mean, you go into a joint and you want to hear certain things, but then they start playing their stuff, and you're like, "All right, well, I'm here for the night, so go at it."
I told a guy one night, I said, "Well, I can start playing stuff twice, and the second time you'll know it."
Mm-hmm.
He
What is it?
kind of laughed, and he's like, "Once is good. Just do another one of yours." But
So
of course, I
in-
did Bipolar Girl, and he loved that one. So
Yeah. In a typical show, how many songs are you playing? 30?
Oh man, yeah, probably. I mean, I'm doing 3 or 4 hour sets.
Yeah, it's tough.
One night I played 6 hours in Weatherford.
6 hours.
6 hours. I did the same thing in. It was in Palo Pinto.
Good.
But they came in and said, "We'll pay you to play more," because all these people showed up, and I'm like, "Okay." So I was having to pull out songs I wrote like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Even made up some on the spot.
We did that one time. We were playing at Lola's in Fort Worth, and I was with the Avilas out there, and we were kind of like get ready to shut it down. And this whole group of, people coming in from the rodeo started showing up. And they were like, "Hey, y'all keep playing." They pulled out a $100 bill,
Funny talks.
and so we started at the front of the set list, and then we went back into it. And sometimes you got to do that, man.
Yeah. Well, I was trying not to do all the same, but I did kind of start over a little bit. But
Yeah,
I threw in some.
we did it all. Because the people that were there at the first weren't there at the end, so hell, it was new to them.
So yeah, doesn't matter.
So that's awesome, man.
I know I had a guy come up to me at one of the deals, and he says, "Man," he goes, "I can't believe you played for so long." He goes, "We had a guy before, and we tried to offer him $400, and he said he had to save his throat because he had a show the next day." And I'm like,
The hell with it.
I said, "Can you imagine what Waylon and Willie?"
Oh yeah.
I mean, what would the redheaded stranger say about someone? I had a guy cancel on me on a show I booked because he had allergies.
Allergies. Yeah.
Allergies. What?
And you're out there doing
I'm
shit.
like, I got a hernia and 4 broke ribs and a bad heart. That right there sounds like a Hayes Carl song. Or maybe Chris Knight, I don't know.
I got 4 broke ribs, a hernia, and a bad heart. But I ain't gonna take me apart. I'm playing for you.
We just wrote a song right there.
There you go. Wow. How about another one, man? You got one more in you?
I think I gotta do Bipolar Girl, don't I?
Let's do it.
The one that you're gonna cover? Clear my throat real quick.
Jody Lee Caudle, Bipolar Girl.
My daughter says it's my one hit.
We ain't talking about her now.
Yeah. I've seen lots of superheroes. The only one that love to fight with herself. She says she's got that superhero. Says she hears super villains, but I know it's just voices in her head. If she don't take the pills, that's when the villain steals another piece of mind. Says she's here to save us all. Somehow she's all his fault. I'm the girl. She got good attention, but needs an intervention. This is all for her imaginary girl. She's all fighting real crimes, and now you're doing time in my Some days we're psychic, some days I'm red me, and my control is power. She rolls time on me. Look, I said no last night. Now that's her kryptonite. It's my Here's where it gets serious. Is that a bird? Is that a plane? Don't think this girl has ever been sane. When as she flies away, I'll just find a way to say bye, bye,
That is a sing along, man.
It's a sing along.
Damn, that's great.
My voice is about going. I apologize.
Let me borrow that for
Yes.
just a second. So that's the Jody Lee version.
Oh, you gonna do the Santana version?
I mean, this is just, so that. And then I did.
I like that better. See, you should make it your own. I like that better.
So Jody brought that out, and when we played it a few times, and I kind of did my funk rock thing to it, and I was just like, man, that's a great song, but
You should
I
do
love
that
that acoustic, just straight forward country thing, man. That is so cool, and that's a sing along.
It's a sing-along. Gotta have it.
That's your signature.
Gotta have it. Sing along.
You said your daughter thought that was your hit.
She told me that, yeah. She told me that was my one hit, and I go, I've written like thousands of songs.
Literally.
But she writes really good songs herself.
Right. So let's talk about her, man. And she's like, what, 19 now? 18?
Yeah, she's going to college.
Yeah.
She'll be a sophomore.
She's playing softball?
Playing softball. Yeah, I got a full ride scholarship, making
That's-
a 4.0.
That's awesome. That makes it good. Feel
She
good.
called me one day and it's like, I kind of just want to do music. I'm like, nope.
No.
Nope.
No. Get your degree.
But yeah, she's doing really good.
And she writes and she plays.
Yep.
How cool is that?
Steals all my good ideas now.
Yeah. Have you helped her write and
Yeah,
kind
I don't help her as
conform
much
to
as I
songs?
used to because she steals my good ideas now.
Yeah.
Like I realized it. She's like, can you help me with this? And then I end up giving her all these ideas and I'm like, oh, I was going to use that in my song.
But you kid, man. You can't say
I
no.
know, right? We give them everything.
Yeah. Did you teach her how to play guitar? She learned on her own?
Yeah, I taught her everything I know, and then she learned some more. So
Yeah.
she's
That's
better
awesome.
than I am.
That's awesome.
One day, she'll be out there.
So, is her goal to be an artist, or is she just kind of...
Yeah, that's what she wants to do after college. She give it a shot, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Now, where's she going to school?
Well, she's about to transfer, so I don't want to mess that up, but she was going to USAO.
Okay.
It's in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
She's going to another school in Oklahoma.
Is there a music scene where she's at?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Red Dirt's up there.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it kind of faded off, I think, after Cross Canadian and Bolin and all them moved to Texas. It kind of faded, but there's a lot of new ones coming back up there, too. They got Breed South Hall Band. It's one's coming out of there.
They're great.
Yeah. Pecos and the Rooftops.
I don't know them.
There's a lot of bands like that coming out. So it's kind of like we talked about earlier. It's that cycle.
Yeah.
You know?
What was the original? Mike, what was his name?
The Great Divide.
Great Divide.
Yeah, Mike McClure.
Mike McClure.
Yeah.
So we opened for him. I played with Aaron Abila and the Aaron Abila Band, and we opened for Mike McClure at the City.
I have a poster in my barn that says Great Divide, Immediate Blues Band, and I think it was Heath Allen and the Fabulous Blue Aces.
Probably.
Yeah.
That was a show that we all kind of did.
I have a poster of it hanging in my barn.
That is awesome. I haven't seen it. Next time I run out there to point it out.
Yeah.
But Mike McClure is just so cool, man. Because we got out there, and, you know, we were doing or they did sound check, and then we got on after them. And the guitar player, just old country dude, just come off the ranch.
Yeah.
And he says, "Hey man, where's your rig at, brother?" And I was using a modeler. I've got a line 6 stomp, and I've got all my amps on there, all my effects. I said, "Well, this is it right here." And I had a pedal board about this big. He's like, "Holy shit, man, that's cool. But if you need, you can use my amp." And they were just this most, down to earth, accommodating group, man. And we played our set, and we played about an hour, and then they come on, and they were just so down to earth and cool. It was just like, man, these guys are awesome. And we had a hell of a show.
Heck yeah. I'm pretty sure that's the poster I have in there.
It probably is.
I just put it up not too long ago. I found it at the station, so we
Yeah.
put it up. I put it up in the barn for somewhere people could see it.
That's cool. Well, where do you see yourself, man, going, and what are you kind of continuing to do?
I'm just gonna work till I die.
Yeah.
Yep. One day the music will stop, but it won't.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man, is like the music will always be there.
Yep.
And
it's like Billy Joe said, "We're gonna live forever."
God, that song is like a reflection into the future of where he was at.
Yeah.
And when his son died, Eddie, and he wrote that song, it was just like, man, it just tears your heart out. And that's what's great about music, and that's why I love music, and you do too. And it's just like, wherever it takes us, let's enjoy the ride and just get there. And the morning ride is what you do. And how can people see you? How can people get in touch with you?
There's different ways. The best way is just go to TexasHomegrownRadio.com. All the links are there for everything. But in the morning, you can actually watch, because we're also simulcast on DallasOnAir.com. So you can actually watch it live in studio and see all the artists in there. If you go to our YouTube page, the only thing I have on Texas Homegrown YouTube is live in studio with artists. And I cut out most of the talking, so it's just live performances from different artists that just passed through Stephenville.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Had Kinfo, that's another band to watch out for.
Who?
Those guys are hilarious. Kinfo, they're so talented. And Rico, the main singer, he plays the fiddle and sings. They're amazing. Check them out. Kinfo. Yeah, Fake Family. Kinfo. That's how they came up with the name.
Nice.
But they're amazing, and I had them in studio, and there was like 6 of them showed up. So like there's like every instrument
studio
like,
was in
packed in there, and it's just awesome.
That's cool. And then you got your own things going. You got the all the different hosting the music jams over at the Rattlesnake, and then at the Red Barrel.
Yep.
And then playing your individual shows. So.
Yeah, and then me and Jeb do a deal called Five and Dimers. So we do like an acoustic duo.
Yeah.
So we put that out there, and we just do the songs we kind of wrote together.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
That's awesome, man. Well, very cool. Well, Jody Lee, anything else you want to throw out at the audience now?
What would I like to say? I know. Everybody write into Sam and tell him to tell Sam Tana, Bipolar Girls this song now.
Yeah,
We
may
just
have to
made
cover
that. I think it was.
The only thing is we have a female singer, so I'm gonna have to sing it, and I'll get the words from you at a later time. But I think that would be a lot of fun.
It'd be great. She could act mad halfway through the song and then happy the other half, and it would play off the whole.
Which is pretty much apropos for anyone.
Yeah, I actually did. I played that for a person one time that evidently was bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got through the song, she goes, and I said, "Do you not like my song?" She goes, "You know I'm bipolar, right?" And there was a bunch of people around, and I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And I said, "I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean it offensive. It wasn't about you."
Right.
And I said, "But you might like it in a little bit." And everybody laughed. 3 songs later, she said, "You play that bipolar song?" And I'm like, "Is this a trap?" And she goes, "No, it's stuck in my head. I really like it." I was like, "Told you."
Her alter ego came out. That's awesome, man. Well, Jody, it's been a hell of a lot of fun, man.
Thank you, brother.
I thank you for coming out, and anytime we can get together, it's always a good time. Anytime you want to do something, shoot.
Heck yeah.
So this concludes number 6 episode of Spirit Notes. Jody Lee Caudle, the man, the myth, the legend. And so anytime you see Jody out there, check him out on Facebook, check him out on social media, go see a show. He's always doing what he can to promote Texas music and the scene and the music and the vibe. So he is a huge part of what goes on in this Central Texas area. So please go out and support Jody Lee and listen to the radio, Texas Homegrown. All right, thank you for tuning in, and this is Spirit Notes number 6.